Ciao, I'm director Percival Rubens. Now, this first film that I'm going to talk about is the first film I ever actually did a screenplay for. It was my first real attempt at any form of writing for film, and it was a small production known as Medusa. Medusa started off as a Mario Bava script start. Mario Bava had several of these, and he challenged people in order to create something workable with the script. And no one could think of what to do with this. The original script start for Medusa was a 60-page essay on Elvis crashes a wedding party. And it was 60 pages describing how the wedding party existed and who was in the wedding party and what was about the wedding party, and Elvis and what songs he would sing and this and that and the other thing, and Elvis showing up at the wedding party. And this was the entire thing. It was 60 solid pages of Elvis crashes a wedding party. And he looked at me and said, "Christopher, is there anything you could do with this?" And I read it, and I looked at it, and I thought about it. And I said, "I think so." And I started writing. And Mario was always like right over my shoulder wondering what I was writing next. It was hilarious. He wouldn't leave me alone until I got the paper done and handed to him, and then he would start reading and go, "This is fantastic," and then he'd leave me alone for like an hour. But, you know, and that was kind of what was going on with that. I started off with Elvis crashes a wedding party. Now, what am I going to do with this? Okay, so what I did is I turned it into man and woman are getting married. Man has a brother. Brother, when drunk, impersonates Elvis. Brother was not invited to the wedding. Brother shows up anyway. Drunk, impersonating Elvis. And so you have an Elvis impersonator crashing a wedding party. And then I threw in some other interesting things, drugs and drug use and drug lords, and I brought in mafioso type people, and I brought in a police inspector who would go and chase down everything. And now you have the beginnings of an actual storyline. And what would happen between this crazy brother who impersonates Elvis and his drugs and his wild life, and what happened with his peaceful, quiet, tranquil brother who always seemed to be bailing him out of trouble. And then we had everything put together. Now, once we had the script done and we had it completely figured out, we needed to try and cast this. Well, I looked at Mario and said, "I have absolutely no idea what you're going to do for a cast." So he said, "That's not important. We'll see what happens." And he said, "Let's see what happens all the way." And I said, "Okay." And he first sent it off as a prospective proposal director needed, which actually turned out to be a plus and a minus. It wound up being a good idea, but a big mistake. I never like saying anything bad about people. I never like saying anything I have to retract later. But the biggest problem is there are some directors I have worked with which you can almost lump together in a group because they're the same type. They're fantastic directors, they're great minds, they're terrible to work for. And they're really hard to work for. And that's the case with Gordon. Gordon Hessler came on board, and he was very difficult to work with the film. And he continued being difficult to work with when I did the Shokasugi films with him. But that's just part and parcel of the whole genie gig, as it were. I mean, I was the same way with Lucio Fulci. Lucio Fulci is a brilliant genius, but horrible to work for. And I've said that in many interviews back in the 80s. The problem we had with Gordon is best summed up by a single incident that happened on the set. I walked up and he was filming the harbor. And I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm filming the backdrop." "Don't worry, I'll get to your script." And I looked at him and I said, "Look over there. What do you see?" He said, "Italy." "What am I supposed to see?" "That," and I pointed straight at our leading actress, "is Jane Fonda, the biggest Hollywood star in history, and you're making her sit there while you film backdrop plates. Nobody on earth is ever going to do this. Nobody. Film your backdrop some other time, work with the actress." And I walked away. And Jane said, "Thank you. I was this close to walking away." And we had so many problems with that it came down to literally Jane Fonda and Dario Argento going, "Don't worry, Chris, if nothing else, if he suddenly walks, we'll just finish it ourselves. We've got enough directors and producers here. We don't necessarily need him." And that keyed him up. That made him suddenly turn around and actually start working more on the production. Which, you know, I mean, we understand the Medusa wasn't necessarily the perfect of all scripts. In some ways, I'd like to do another Medusa at some point if I can ever really get into the idea of writing again. I got out of the whole writing and directing and producing thing because back then I had a complete production company behind me. And I had directors who were not just willing, they were anxious to sit there and say, "Let me teach you how to be a director. Let me teach you how to write screenplays. Let me teach you how to be a producer. And, you know, let me teach you how to run a camera." And when all this is going on, you're just being a journeyman. You're just learning. And Mario Bava originally had contacted directors that I had worked with in the States, and they asked them, "Can you take Christopher under your wing and complete his training?" And they, like typical Americans, friends or no, responded to him as, "Did you graduate film school? We had to. Why should he be any different?" Which just literally sent Mario over the edge. He was like, "I just can't believe people sometimes." But, you know, that's life, okay? So, I mean, a lot of people wonder, will I ever write screenplays again? Will I ever direct again? I don't know. Screenplays are difficult for me because I don't really like writing under the time limits of a screenplay. I would rather sit down and write a novel and really work out a novel than concern myself with, can this be filmed in 2 hours? And that's a lot of the reasons I have problems with screenplays. When I wrote Medusa, it was a long script. It was a very, very long script. But it was a very fast-paced script. And there actually are 2 cuts of the film. One that Dario Argento did all the editing on and made it a very fast-paced script. So if you've ever seen it and it's moving really quickly and it's really fast and furious and done and wow, then that's pretty much the idea I originally had. If you're watching something with a lot of backdrop plates and almost, "Oh, this is my holiday in Italy. Oh, by the way, there's a film going on. Oh, this is my holiday in Italy," then you're seeing what Gordon Hessler did with our production. Which is why there were so many problems back and forth. But both films are actually out there. You can actually find both versions of the film if you look hard enough. We had a lot of fun doing this production. Jane was amazing to work with. This was the second time I got to work with Jane Fonda. The first was on Spirits of the Damned, an Edgar Allan Poe series. And she's just an incredible actress. I wish I could work with her more. I wish she would do more in the industry. There's a lot of times you look at some of the actresses of today and they just have a lot lacking that she could really teach them in how to be an actress and how to really present themselves in that sense. And she's just a remarkable person, over-the-top actress, and really fun to work with. On the film of Medusa, one of the neat things is it was the film's start. It was the first on-camera scene of Asia Argento. She's the little girl with the ball that he kidnaps in the end. And I spent a lot of my life listening to Harry Chapin. I grew up with Harry and his family. They went to the same church in New York. And so I kind of incorporated a little bit of the concept of one of Harry's songs, Sniper, into the actual production of Medusa, and where he's being a sniper, he's got a kid and he's kidnapping her and holding her up in a tower, and then everyone's kind of crowding around the tower. And that whole thing was taken from the concept of Harry Chapin's Sniper. And I just put a wonderful thing together. When we originally casted for The Cop, we received a Italian actor who had mostly done television work, and when he read my script, he was amazed. He thanked me every moment of every chance he could, because it was the best, most incredible script he could ever think of doing, and he was trying to really work on that. And a lot of that came from my experiences in the past, my friends and whatnot, which I usually don't go into too much publicly, but I have a lot of experience in that kind of world, and I brought a lot of that out in my writing, which is evident in Medusa. And Medusa was written as a very fast-paced thing, but it has some of its problems, some of its ups and downs. Give it a try sometime. You can find it in some of these multi-DVD packs. I think it's either Chilling or Pure Terror. It's like 50 packs of horror at once. Both Pure Terror and Pure Chilling, if you can find them, are wonderful packs. They have a lot of my films in them, and a lot of other films that were also done in Italy and other places. So check it out. Thank you for taking a moment, watching my little bit, and have a good night.